thought you were gonna say, I wonder how our audio is gonna sound with my new mic. I was gonna say,
No,
Jesus
again,
Christ,
I
dude.
no, yeah, I have this. I got this HyperX one, and I'm gonna have this one for a very long time.
I think we'd have to have an intervention for him at that
Yeah, I
point.
know. I just pictured Neil sitting in a room with a bunch of like dildo-looking mics around him, 360 degrees surrounding him.
Just-
And like you guys are like pouring your hearts out, but it's like I'm just bawling and like, but how do I sound?
but
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and you have decided for whatever reason to tune into another horrible gaming podcast. Thank you for joining us. With me, as always, is
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
we are also joined by a special guest today. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Yo, what's up, old man fan Philbilly330 here, back again onto the podcast.
Welcome, Philbilly, to the show again. You have the record of the most times on. I think you're at like 7 at this point.
And it is an honor that is held by very few.
No. The honor is all ours, sir. All ours. Okay, so I just love any show where we have all the foundation on. It warms the cockles of my dark, cold heart. All right.
I don't want to hear about your cockles. Move it on.
Cockles in a dark void of nothingness.
All right, let me get through the credits. Guys. All right, so we do have a couple of credits. Number one, if you're watching this on the YouTube version, any of the original graphics you see are courtesy of Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And, of course, the theme song for this show and all of our shows here on the channel are done by the man who makes the music, my brother, Nick Van Sliders, and we thank him for that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first segment and possibly our most favorite, fan interaction. That is where we, the hosts, talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments in all the places that you can write them, as long as we see them. And then we also decide the Horrible Arena winner. We also ask questions from time to time. And finally, I want a little special thing at the beginning. So on the analytics of our listening side, obviously you guys can watch this on YouTube every Wednesday morning. It comes with timestamps and fancy graphics. But you can also listen to this wherever podcasts can be found, or at least 8 places where podcasts can be found. I have analytics for that as well. And in the analytics of that, it gives a geographical breakdown. 3% of our listens come from Ireland. That breaks down to be probably one person in Ireland listening to this. Every other geographical location that shows a percentage, it's usually less than 1%, which means somebody probably tuned in for like 5 minutes, realized I'm a moron, and cut it off as fast as humanly possible. Whereas this guy or girl from Ireland is been listening to us on a semi-regular basis. So this is directly to the person in Ireland who is listening to this show. Contact us, man. Find us on YouTube, or find us on Discord, or wherever you can find us on Facebook. I give the places at the end of the show. We would really love to talk to you. We'd even love to have you on the show. I really want a perspective of a gamer who does not come from Midwest America. It would be wonderful to have you on. So please contact us. We would love to get to know you. All right. With that out of the way, let's get into the comments. So Kev Too Tall starts off, and these comments are like all Kev Too Tall. Just everybody, this is a Kev Interaction all the way. Kev Too Tall, hate to say this, guys, but the cake is a lie. Kev, stop that. There's gonna be Mass Effect cake. It just might not be very good, but it's gonna be there.
No, I'm just glad that somebody made the cake is a lie joke.
Wait, did I miss something? Am I missing a pop culture reference?
Say what?
Am I missing a pop culture reference with the cake is a lie?
Yeah, Portal.
Oh, I never played Portal. I'm gonna get.
I've never played Portal either, but I mean,
I didn't
that's
know
one of
there
those
was a cake
things.
joke in it. I didn't know.
I didn't catch that either.
That's one of those games that I've always wanted to play and also never wanted to play. Like, it's like everybody says it's so good, and then I look at it and I was like, I don't want to do that. Okay, so moving on. Kev says, okay, so he's specifically referring to the team thing, which I don't know if I agree with him, but one team can be working on the Mass Effect collection along with the new game because any assets that they create or rebuild for the collection, they can use in the new game. So while there is a team working on the story and the non-game engine parts of the game, the other part of the team can be fixing up the collection, and then they can use all that information that they've learned making the collection better to then put into making the new game along with people that are working on all the other parts. Kev, they're a two-team company, period. There's no third team. We know there's a team working on Anthem. We know there's a team working on Dragon's Age. So, like, that's great. I get that the team that's working on the Mass Effect collection could also be working on the new Mass Effect game, but there's no team to do that, which is why I'm very confused. Like, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, I guess they could have splintered some things off, but I thought they were just a two-team company.
Yeah, no, I get what he's saying. I think, though, that would lend itself more so to it being a complete remake than just a remaster. Because, yeah, if you want to use assets that you build out, for one game in another one, you absolutely 100% can do that. So yeah, I see that definitely being a possibility, but I think that would mean that the Mass Effect collection is going to be more so a remake than remaster, which, I mean, if it is, cool.
I still think
but I mean, they very well.
I think they're going to make a big mistake if they don't universalize that first game. And that goes into, Kevin actually added a comment to this, which is, this also includes, as Zach hinted, making a universal control scheme for the collection and the new game. And I think you've got to universalize those games. If you play those games back to back, it is absolutely one of the most jarring experiences you will ever have in your life. Like, personally, I even think 2 to 3 is really different. Like, they're much more samey than 1 and 2, but I've never played a trilogy that's that different from game to game to game. Okay, so then Kev commented, talk about awkward radio silence. Neil should have danced. Also, don't go back and edit it out. Well, I didn't go back and edit it out. I said pause at one part because my kid was torturing my dog upstairs, and my dog yowled, so I had to run upstairs to find out. And if you guys listen to the podcast, you heard basically like a minute and a half of Neil just awkwardly waiting on the line for me to come back because I forgot to cut it out. So, wish granted, Kev. Kev Tutal then said they could be bringing back the Olympics games like they used to have. He is referring to what we spoke about in the odds and ends about EA saying that they're working on multiple sports franchises that they haven't worked on before. I have a different theory. Do you want to hear it?
I'm interested.
I have a theory too.
I'm excited. I'm excited because I have a really crazy theory. Well, what's yours, Phil?
Mine is just I don't watch the most like pro sports or anything, but I have heard that like sports like lacrosse and field hockey are becoming like there's actually professional teams formed now. I mean, I don't know anything about those sports, but
right.
I'm just one person who's not always keen on that stuff. So maybe there's a big enough following for sports like that they could actually sell games. I mean, I don't know. It's just a theory.
No, that is a theory. I have another interesting theory that I'd like to throw out there. And while this is not strictly a sport, I think they're making WWE's next professional wrestling game.
Well, that could be a good thing.
Because, well, Ukes walked away from the project. Ukes walked away from the project from 2K. They already canceled the next 2K, or at least indefinitely postponed it. Ukes is now working on the first AEW game, and I feel like EA is primed to pick up that franchise, which is a franchise with selling power. Those games, I mean, if you look at the last like 3 or 4 years, the games come out and they're shitty as hell, and they still sell like gangbusters just because WWE is slapped on the front. So I think instead, I think we witnessed the death of the WWE 2K franchise, and it turns into the WWE year afterwards franchise. That's my thought.
AEW for the win.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Ukes. I mean, Ukes is tried and tested. You know, like I would always pick Ukes over EA in any given day. That's for sure. Then Kev Tutal says the safe word is always pineapple with a laughy face, and I have no idea what he's specifically referring to, but I'm sure what that is funny.
That was your cold open. Or your close actually. You told Neil to.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
The saltines. Yeah. It's that just anybody who doesn't like anybody who wonders, like, Neil is always there to make sure that I'm not too crazy, and sometimes I get away from him anyway.
It's actually a good thing that we had the conversation about that too, because somewhere along the way I did not tell my wife the words. So that's kind of important, I guess. For our security system.
Oh, the security.
Yeah. So
she listened to the bonus and was like, "You have code words for the security system."
Yeah, and I could have swore I told, because I set everything up, and like there's multiple codes to put in, and there's like, the code words, and like there's a phone number. It's the specific phone number of them. Like, hey, put it in your phone so you know it's them. So like if you ever get a call, the only time they call is if the system is going off. So it's like, hey, you need to answer that. And I was like, yeah, I guess either she forgot or I never told her or something. But yeah.
That's funny. All right, so I guess that brings us to the horrible arena there, champ.
Yeah.
And it is not your week. I'm going to get another point from you. Kev Tutal starting it off. Horrible arena. Point Zach. Neil, your game sounds more exhausting than raiding in World of Warcraft for 16 hours at a time. I gotta say, that's pretty rough.
Thanks, Kev.
I didn't think it was that bad, but damn. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I didn't write it down that week, so I already know I have not a single shot if I do my pitch off the top of my head.
Neil, I love how democratic you are. You can tell him to go fuck himself. That's totally fine. I'm not gonna fight you. You're always so democratic.
He is totally right though. Given the information that I gave when I pitched that, I'm listening back to myself like, God, I wouldn't even play my game. What the fuck?
Green Scar, you guys know him as the man who makes the music, voted on Discord. Thank you for using Discord. He says, I must vote for Gundam game. Instant nostalgia and an excuse to buy action figures again. So, and I believe, Philbilly, you text voted. Do you want to say what you voted for?
Yeah, I also went for the Gundam game. Again, same thing, kind of nostalgia.
Well, and isn't that always what you wanted to do with those toys? Like, anytime I built those models, the minute I was done, I was like, I want to blow them up now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm honestly really surprised that hasn't been picked up by some company somewhere.
There's probably some version of it. It's just, the thing that would make me hate it is if they made it now, they would make brand new toys for it with like barcodes, and I don't want that.
Right.
I want my old models to be able to go in. Okay.
Yeah, I used to play your game basically in my head when I was a kid with toys, so it'd be cool to see it in real life.
There's actually some shout out to Mark Bell if he's listening. There's actually these rules for it based loosely on the Warhammer miniature game, Warhammer 40K. Somebody like took them and tweaked them to where you can actually play with the models in miniature game. It takes hours, but it is a lot of fun. I've actually played it a couple of times. And then just off the subject of the Horrible Arena, Greenscar actually answered your question, Neil. No one answered your question. He said, also, captions are a must for video games and movies, especially video games, as there is no rewind. Go ahead.
I don't like them in movies, but I definitely do prefer them in video games.
I could take it or leave them in movies. Sometimes I'll put them on if like something really loud is going on in the background if I'm trying to watch something. But yeah, video games, absolutely. You got to have it. I work too hard for those cutscenes to not know what's going on.
Yeah, with movies, I think it's different because your entire interaction with a movie is you sitting and watching it. So, I mean, my full 100% attention is on it. It kind of goes to that whole idea of like, I hate random QuickTime events in the middle of cutscenes, or like the one thing I love God of War to death, but the old ones especially, to where you've got this crazy flashy action going on the screen, but you have to watch for those cues, so you don't get to really take in what is happening.
Right.
You're too busy looking at that other crap. So it's like a detractor in that regard with those. But like like you said, like you work too hard for the cutscenes and you're playing the game for the story, kind of like you're watching a movie for the story.
Right.
So like they both go hand in hand and are two separate things at the same time. I don't know if I've described that well enough, but
no, I get what you're saying. I think it's a serious design flaw in games when you get really plot heavy dialogue during action sequences. Like, I like the idea of playing. I've always been a guy who's like, if I want to watch something, I watch a movie. If I want to play something, I play a game. I don't want to watch a game, you know. But at the same time, there are times where it's like, okay, just let me watch this part because I don't know what's going on because this is the hardest fight in the game, and all this like exposition is coming out. Like the bad guy's just spurting exposition, and I can't focus on it because I got to dodge the fireballs he's hurling at me, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I it's the same with those QuickTime events where it's like you're just like listening to the story and then an axe gets thrown on you and you don't press A fast enough, then you just die.
Right.
All right. So that's it for fan interaction. I score another point on the Horrible Arena, brings me a little bit closer, though my net gain still hasn't gone above 4, so it's still 9 to 5. So you're still up, Neil. You're still up, and you might be after today. I'm very nervous about this Horrible Arena. I think I got too specific with the thing.
I am very curious to see what yours is, and I kind of really hope that you and I don't pitch the same thing because I don't know why I'm getting it.
Yeah,
I'm getting a vibe. I'm getting a vibe that you and I are going to pitch the same thing, but the devil's going to be in the details.
Right. I don't even know that we're going to pitch the same thing. I'm just very scared because it has to be a Mass Effect game. That it's like this is we're really riding that fine line where we could pitch the same damn game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But
Stay
I think
tuned to find out.
Right. What's funny is, Phil, since you're on, we've been doing a thing for the Horrible Arena where the guest gets to cast the first vote, which is funny because I don't think you've gotten through any of the Mass Effect games, right?
No, not I really no, I haven't.
So this is gonna be interesting.
Oh God.
We're gonna get a real understanding vote.
I know nothing about it, so whoever pitches best wins, basically.
I'm not gonna lie. When we talked about you coming on, I actually thought to myself, if I just pitched Monster Hunter World in space and attached Mass Effect to it, I think I get that first vote. I think it'll be up. But I was like, no, that's some dirty shit. I can't do that. All right. So I think that wraps up fan interaction. Let's move on, shall we?
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our first talking point. And I've already talked to the gentlemen who are sharing the show with me today. And they have allowed me the floor for the opening part of this talking point. And the talking point is specifically the Godfall reviews that came out and the review system at large.
Go ahead, bitch away.
I'm gonna bitch. I am calling. Look, I have a terrible talk. You can go back on our channel. I'm not necessarily trying to plug, but if you want to go back and check it out, I actually talk about how I believe the review system in video games is broken. However, after this review, I feel like I was too nice in that. I feel like it's not just broken; it is utterly and wholly corrupt. So, first of all, what am I basing this on? Well, Godfall released. It's a PS5 and PC exclusive. You can only get it through Epic Game Store on PC. I purchased it day one. Philbilly pushed this on day one. He's definitely going to give his opinions of it in a little bit as well. But then the reviews came out. They reviewed this. IGN gave this game a 6. Okay? Now everybody knows out there 6 isn't that great. I wouldn't have so much of a problem with a 6 if it weren't for the fact of what has gotten higher than a 6. Let's talk about that. Number one, and this is the big one, Avengers. Marvel's Avengers got a 7. Now, Godfall has come out. There have been a few little bugs, nothing game-breaking. Is it the game of the year? Definitely not. But Marvel's Avengers was damn near unplayable when it released. The actual blog of Marvel's Avengers, the official blog, if you go back and look at their patch notes, tell you how many glitches they fixed in the first 3 or 4 patches. It was over 1,000. Over 1,000 bugs and glitches went live with that game when it came out, and it got a 7.0. Godfall, nothing near that, 6.0. Godfall is actually pretty. Godfall is actually a relatively enjoyable experience, which leads me to look at the history of IGN and how they review stuff. Now, if you look at Marvel's Avengers and the lead up to Marvel's Avengers coming out, IGN had numerous first looks. They had numerous beta testing, numerous advanced copies given to them and shown to them by the company, by Crystal Dynamics. Basically, the Crystal Dynamics bought their 7.0 with first looks, with early access. And this is the problem, because you look at Godfall, IGN got very little access to Godfall before it released. Eric's, a YouTube channel, which I hold in high respects, got a lot of early access. They got almost all the exclusives, almost all the developer interviews and developer live streams and stuff. And they get a point lower. So we're at a point now where I just can't ignore this anymore, and I have to speak out. IGN is corrupt. They allow companies to buy their reviews, whether with direct money or with early access, which is basically direct money in this company, in this industry. And I want to point out that as an industry, this is one of the only industries, if not the only media industry, that allows developers to basically pay the critics that are supposed to be our advocates. So shame on IGN. Shame on every major company that just spiked this game because this game didn't give them early access, or because this game wasn't paying them as much as Marvel's Avengers, because there's no consistency, none. And it's just, I find it frustrating. I find it frustrating when my shitty, horrible reviews have more journalistic integrity than people who went to school for this crap. So I think that's going to end my rant. So I'll open up for discussion.
Well, I'm going to pass it off to Phil because I have not physically played it. So, I mean, I have opinions on the, thing as a greater whole, but I think given we're on the topic of the review itself,
that's fair.
See what Phil has got to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys listen to our first 330 live stream, I I think I kind of brought it up, like,
Yeah.
uh, and I've gotten a decent amount of time with the game, not as much as I'd like, just because of the real world stuff. But
Right.
it's a good game. I echo what Zach said. Like, I don't think it's a 10 out of 10. I don't think it's the game of the year. I think it has a lot of potential to become very good, depending on how it's supported down the road. But it's not one of those games where I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, this thing has potential if they didn't completely botch it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they didn't completely botch it. It's not. It's a playable, fun game that so far I can see maybe myself having the longevity and staying interested long enough to make it to end game and start some grinding and hopefully get some builds going and stuff. But yeah, I think I used the like description of the part of the problem with like IGN and stuff. As Zach said, the I don't think I'm not gonna get so tinfoil hat is to say that they're directly being paid by the developers, but I totally agree that they, in a sense, they are being paid because if they give that game, if they're given early access and
Right.
then they shit on that game, then they know that they're never going to be given early access
Right.
again by that developer. So if that developer were to drop, a game with the clout of, let's say, not to bring out another bag of words, but like a 2077. I can't think of the freaking name.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
Cyberpunk.
like,
Yeah.
so let's say that developer brings out a game with the cloud of Cyberpunk. Um, you think they're gonna risk
Right.
having pissed off that company and not getting that early access? Hell no.
Right.
So, and the other problem I've always had with reviewers is like IGN, they have a team of reviewers that reviews that game. But I've actually looked into this. They don't Those reviewers are not picked on like, there's not a reviewer who likes top down RPGs and a reviewer that likes looter shooters and
Right.
so there's just like a stock of reviewers who are basically just college journalists that I'm not saying they're not gamers, I'm sure they are, but not all gamers are created equally. Yeah, for instance, Zach and Neil love games like Skyrim, open world games. I don't like them. Does that mean they're bad games? No, not at all. It's just my taste doesn't allow for that. So the analogy I used was, it would be like if IGN went to somebody to go review food and that person didn't like food, but they sent them to KFC, or I'm sorry, they didn't like food. Everybody likes food. They didn't The reviewer didn't like chicken.
Food sucks.
The reviewer didn't like chicken, but IGN sends them to KFC to review their chicken. Well, of course it's going to get a bad review.
Right.
That person doesn't like chicken. And so that's part of the problem too, I think, is they're not you can't send someone who has no interest in a genre to review that genre.
That's right.
The reviews are going to be biased one way or the other, and that's not doing any favors for the community, because if I'm going to look at the reviews of a game like Godfall, obviously I'm interested in that genre.
Right. Right.
So I've always had problems with review companies.
To spiral off that, there was something else on Twitter that I saw. Somebody pointed out that the Mario Game & Watch scored a higher review score than Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, which look, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 have some issues.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we're going to talk about it later in the show. However, I don't know that systems with SSDs, I mean, they're all hardware, right? Like, and Dustin Legary came to the defense and said, he said something very sarcastic, basically pointing to the fact that, well, it couldn't possibly be that we have different reviewers on different projects looking at different things. And I'm like, well, there's your problem. Like, that's not a defense. The fact that you have no consistency in your reviews, like, these are both hardware. You should have hardware people reviewing this and talking to each other. I mean, I spoke in my original review, Terrible Talk, and I spoke on how I don't think these kind of things should have scores. I haven't thought they should have scores for a long time. I think scores inherently have a problem, especially with a thing like gaming, which is so diverse. And I'm not saying that movies aren't amazing. I'm saying that there's so many ways to enjoy a video game that I think it's beyond just giving it a flat 1 out of 10 score. That being said, if you're reviewing hardware, you should have 5 hardware reviewers, and they should all be talking to each other to make sure that your reviews are uniform across the board. If you guys truly think the Game & Watch is better than the Series X and the PS5, your defense shouldn't be, well, we have different reviewers and some people review different ways. It should be, well, it's better. That, in our opinion, that is a better system, period. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's basically kind of proving what I was just talking about.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. That's why I'm like spiraling off of it. It's like why is this just assigned to a random person, and why is that a defense that like you don't have any direct people? I don't. We've been talking. Neil, do you want to jump in here? I'm sorry, we were talking over you.
No, I mean, you're totally fine, because I mean, like I said, I haven't played the game.
Right.
I want to come at it with my personal feelings. From what I have seen of it, this is one of the very few, they don't want to bill it as such, but I'm going to bill it as such, games as service games out there that it like has caught my attention because of how it looks, the type of combat, this, that, and the other thing. And that kind of speaks to the argument of everybody has their own personal taste. Because, again, like, if you were to give me a copy of Destiny and say, hey, review this, I mean, regardless of what it's sat at, you know, I would give it like a 3. Like, yeah, you can shoot, but you wind up doing the same things over and over again. You kind of have to take it for what it is. And I think having a dedicated reviewer for a specific type of thing I don't think that would necessarily be a fix to the problem, because then you would have people coming at the whole situation like, well, of course they're going to think it's good because, you know, they're the reviewer of X thing.
Right.
At the end of the day, reviews are literally just opinions. They are there to give people like a barometer of how people are feeling. That's why something like Metacritic exists. And I have Metacritic pulled up right now. Godfall is sitting at a 63. Definitely not stellar, but there are some good reviews out there. There's 85, 75. That's like, all right, it's okay. So, I mean, that again speaks to the fact that it's everybody's got their own little cup of tea. Now, in regards to people speaking negatively about games, stuff like that, like anybody can get blackballed in that regards, and that's definitely something that happens. It's not necessarily off of one single review, but it's an accumulative process, and I do believe that is part of the problem. That being said, I mean, there are certain outlets like IGN, Game Informer, you know, the heavy hitters out there that are like gonna do the review one way or another. Mm-hmm. So whether or not like they're concerned about, oh, well, we might not get access to this game, like at that point, like they're big enough, they just like, yeah, we buy the game and we play it and we tell you what we think about it. There's no corporate, you know, sort of shackling in that regard, at least in my personal opinion.
Yeah, that's wrong.
With
IGN has corporate shackling. I disagree with you wholeheartedly on that. And it goes to prove it when they review games without even all the information. Borderlands 3 got a review they didn't even have the full copy. They couldn't even review the co-op on it because Gearbox sent them an advanced copy, but they still reviewed it because they were afraid that they would lose out to the other companies. That's corporate shackling right there. And that's how Gearbox got away with a higher score than they should have had on that game. Like, I think IGN is just as afraid as anybody else, and I think that they make more money off of their first access and those kind of spots than they do off their reviews, and that's why they sacrifice their reviews for it.
Well, in that regard, I think that is a choice on the review outlet because, sure, they want to be the first ones to get the foot traffic, this, that, and the other. But at that point, they are sacrificing their own journalistic integrity by not giving a full picture and strictly wanting to go more so for the hype train than, what it is. So at that point, I don't think it's necessarily them being afraid of the company and what they might say and do. I think it's them being afraid of
the collective,
FOMO, basically. The collective.
The collective. Yeah. And I don't necessarily... I think that definitely factors in as well. I think that all of these things go into this, but I think at the end it's still a corruption. It's a serious corruption because even though these are opinions, these people are supposed to be our vanguard. They're supposed to be our advocates. They're supposed to be the people who give us an idea of how good these games are. I'm going to buy a set. If I'm just looking at scores, I'm going to buy a 7. I'm not going to buy a 6. And Godfall is a superior game to Marvel's Avengers. Most games out there are a superior game to Marvel's Avengers, and that's coming from a dude who liked Marvel's Avengers and actually played like 50 to 60 hours of it. And that kind of stuff needs to stop in our industry. We don't have any, in this industry, it bothers me that my reviews, which are not great, I personally at this point believe have slightly more journalistic integrity than some of these big name companies who are supposed to be the last line of defense on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that is the big problem. Bottom line is that there's nowhere as a consumer in the gaming space that I can go other than really small reviewers to get an idea of if I truly want to spend my money on that game, because this is another thing I was thinking of too. I feel like these big AAA games, especially if it's a respected franchise, could release a fucking pile of shit and it will get a higher review than a newcomer into a genre.
I think there are exceptions to that rule because you have a lot of the... I will give IGN this. A lot of the 10 out of 10s last year were indie games that weren't attached to AAA developers. So I'll give them the indie stuff on that. But I will say this. I think a pile of shit AAA game will come out and still get a 7, still get an 8,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't see a world, the way that reviews work right now, that if God of War or Assassin's Creed or an Elder Scrolls game came out and they were terrible, I don't see a single reviewer giving them less than a 7.
Right. I mean, Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out. They gave it an 8. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. And Brandon Tyrell
systems.
Right. Brandon Tyrell was talking about it on Unlocked, and talking about how great a game is. And he actually mentions in that, he's like, it did hard crash my Series X a couple of times, but because the Series X is so good, I got in fast, so it just didn't matter to me. That's an unacceptable response. If a game crashes your system, it needs to be thought about in the reviews, and I don't think any game out there that crashes a system once, let alone multiple times, should have an 8. I mean, I just don't. I don't care how well written it is. The game doesn't work. I don't know.
Hell, from my point of view, is I'm known on this channel as Borderlands is my game. I do not believe that if Borderlands 2 wasn't as successful as it was, that Borderlands 3 would have gotten an 8 in a review. It doesn't deserve it. And I'm a guy that I love Borderlands. that's what brought me to the channel, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did enjoy Borderlands 3. I played it for at least a year before I finally got so sick of it that I gave up. But the game didn't deserve an 8.
No.
Well, in regards to like games coming out that like it like just because it's got the brand recognition it can't get below something. Just because I had it pulled up, I went on to Metacritic again for the Elder Scrolls Blades. And the Elder Scrolls Blades is sitting at 42 on Metacritic with a 2.6 on the user score. And generally, all the scores are like 50 and below. I see 260s. I see a 0.
Well, and
Like-
that's great. I mean, but Blades was so utterly bad that it was impossible not to, you know?
Right.
I don't even know
And
what that game is.
Yeah,
It's-
it's a
well, that's-
it's a mobile game for
It's-
Skyrim.
Oh,
yeah, but the point I was going to make with that, though,
Yeah, go ahead.
is the fact that you are collectively comparing numbers for different things based off of different criteria. I mean, a shooter is going to have different ideas as to, what makes a good shooter compared to an adventure game. Elder Scrolls Blades is a free-to-play mobile piece of crap, as we just said. But at the same time, it's got that brand recognition on it. So, I mean,
Right.
there were a lot of people who were like, oh, it's going to be good whenever it comes out. But you cannot compare something like Elder Scrolls Blades to Skyrim because those are two totally different things. And while Avengers and Godfall are collectively, a game as service game, like they still have different elements. They have a different type of story. They attract a different type of crowd. And that goes back to the whole idea of maybe having somebody more focused in one thing or another. But again, you can't hone too close, too much in on that, because then again, you'll run into people thinking that things are biased.
Well, I see what you're saying there. I understand that. I think that problem comes from the fact that games shouldn't get scores. I don't think they should get scores. I think that's a huge problem because you're not just comparing apples to oranges. You're comparing apples to battery oil. Like they're like so completely different, and to refine them all into one 10-point scoring system is a little ridiculous in my opinion. But I mean, I still think that there is a baseline that you have to look at. I mean, I'm not even talking about the game itself, like how fun it is and what goes into it. Marvel's Avengers had game-breaking bugs. Godfall didn't. Right then and there, the scores at least need to be even. At least. Same with Valhalla. Valhalla is an 8, and it has game-breaking bugs. That is not acceptable, and that's my problem. Like, you can't score game. Hell, I'll go one further. One of my possible game of the year is Watch Dogs Legion. It has game-breaking bugs. It's sitting at an 8. I don't think that's right. Like on the very base technical level, if the game crashes your system, it should have a lower score than games that don't.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta have these flat baselines. Like, I'm not even talking about the story. Like, story shouldn't even enter into it yet. The game doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that, but that is my personal, because I agree with your line of thinking.
Right.
That still just comes down to opinion. There are some people. You told me I think it was yesterday. You had told me like, you had said somebody said that the game crashed out their console completely, but they could overlook it because the game was just so good. I mean, again, it just goes back to reviews being a barometer for people, to make a decision based off of what somebody else says.
But that's what I'm saying. As these are opinions, but they also need some sort of baseline. They have no baseline right now. If you were watching a movie and 10 minutes of it was just black, Like there was nothing there, and then it came back and you had to put it together, and it was still a great movie except for that huge black thing. It's not a complete movie. There needs to be a baseline for games is what I'm saying. You can't review a game like and it should be on the technical. You need to have just a start right there. A game should not be scoring lower if it works and another one doesn't. And it's not an opinion. It's like if a car doesn't work, if one car doesn't work and another car does, the car that does should always score better than the car that doesn't because it works. It drives. It gets you to the place that you need to be. Like, this is a really cool car, but it doesn't get me there. Like, I don't know. I feel like you need some sort of baselines. These are still the things, like, these are still pieces of software that need to work. And I think people are overlooking things that they shouldn't just based on how well characters talk when the game does work. And that's not right. Like, it's not just a piece of art. It is also a piece of software.
Or they should be, like, there's a couple reviewers that are like YouTube reviewers that I can, like, whether I agree or disagree with them, I can at least respect what they say, because they'll break down a game kind of like you're saying, Zach, where they'll be like, okay, we're going to rate this thing out of 10, but in 17 categories.
Right. Like a multi-tier review.
They'll be like, is this game fun to play? 8 out of 10. How well does the game work on console or, on your hardware? 0 out of 10 because it crashed my system.
Right.
Story, 9 out of 10, and they'll break it down like that. So at least then I can look at it and be like, okay, well, they're being thorough and they're catching each point. And if they want to give it some score at the end, at least I can see where they're pulling it from, and I can look at it and go, okay, well, they gave it a 7, but I don't want anything to do with a game that got a 0 on performance on my console.
Right.
So at least I can make a decision for myself based on that.
Well,
not just it's an 8.
That is an interesting way to look at it. I think a multi-tiered scoring system might be a beneficial. I don't know. I'm keeping my tinfoil hat firmly in place on this one. I think that IGN is corrupt and they take kickbacks, and that is why we get shitty reviews from them, and their reviews don't matter. Like, you should not take their reviews. Like, take them with a grain of salt or find small-time reviewers to do it.
Yeah, that's a shame, though, that it's like that everything, not to sound like Philbilly, but everything is freaking about money. That's all it is.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I see what you're saying. My thing is, though, is the thing that should, like, when a developer does some shitty money stuff, I'm like, okay, I get that. You're an evil developer. Got it. But, like, when the people who are supposed to be, like, I think if you compared the reviews on gaming to the review integrity of, like, movies or books, like, you're looking at a completely different, like, thing, and that bothers me a little bit. Like, I know it's all about money, but at the same time, like, I kind of wish that, like, the critics worried more about us and less about them, I guess, is where I'm coming from. But I don't know. Does anyone want to add anything to it? Because we are at 28 minutes just for this topic. So.
It's a long one.
It's a good conversation, though. I think we all have interesting counter viewpoints. That
I do have one question, actually,
Sure.
though. What is battery oil?
It's
I don't know.
it's me telling you to go fuck yourself.
The only other
Touche,
thing
Neil. Touche.
the only other thing I have to add that kind of sucks too is, like how it's like there's no good way to get a review, because you can't listen to those big companies, and then it's just hit or miss on, like, YouTuber reviews. Some of them are really good. Like, some of them do the good first looks. Like, I think Zach does good first looks.
Aww.
And then some of them, like, there's a dude named Rurikon who he's willing to be, like, he hasn't even done his Godfall review yet, because he will literally play through that entire game and break it wide open, and then he will it might be a month before he gets his review out, but he's a big enough channel and he has a good enough following. He's actually a Monster Hunter guy is how he got started. But
I know who you're talking about.
He does very good reviews because he breaks that game wide open and he'll come and explain everything, and he's been fortunate enough to get a following that they're willing to wait for him. But then you got the other side of the YouTube thing where like a game like Godfall gets shit on by one guy and someone else, it just becomes like a kind of like a toxic where people are just going to shit on this game just to shit on it because it's the cool thing to do to shit on this game right now, which sucks too, because you never know what. It's just unfortunate that you can't exactly trust unless you have found someone that you particularly like their style and all that. You can't just go on YouTube anymore and be like, hey, is this game good? And believe that it's going to be an accurate representation.
You gotta watch. I would say you gotta watch at least 3 reviews to get a good idea, and that is kind of a bummer. I will say thank you for the subtle plug in there of my reviews. As far as my reviews go, though, I'm snap judgment only, so I'm like 5 to 15 hours max. So
I call them like first looks. You know?
Yeah, it's much more. Yeah, like if you're. I'm trying to look at it like a dad with little time. So like a lot. I think this is a less militant problem that I will say in reviews, but I think one of the problem with some mainstream reviews is they have to play it to its completion and play all the way through it. So a lot of times they'll find something in the later game that's so awesome, and then you forget that a lot of people who play games are dads with or married dads or people with full-time jobs or 2 jobs who get only so many hours to play, and how much time do they have to waste to actually get to the good stuff, you know?
Yeah, but the problem with some of those that, like, that's why I said that Rurikon do, because he busts the game wide open, but he takes a long time to do it. And I think there's a big issue with, like, reviews that look at the entire game, but if they're getting that review done in 2 days, if you've busted through an entire game, entire, let's say 40-hour game in 2, 3, 4 days, that's really not enough because that's not enough time.
And you have to in this industry to stay on, like that's another thing that's unfortunate. Like, I mean, in defense of IGN, you have to have those reviews out with GameSpot, and all of them have to have the reviews out basically day one, or your old news. So but we need to move on. I'm sorry, we keep getting into the weeds on this. So we're gonna go on to our next talking point.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our second point, and you're probably looking at the clock like, wow, this is going to go long, and hopefully it won't. But Neil, you have purchased yourself, you managed to get yourself a day one PS5. And I've seen it in person now. It's huge. But why don't you why don't you give us your first impressions of it? We'd love to hear about it.
So I have to start off with just the whole process of getting it. It was kind of mired in a lot of question marks, not from me personally, but like the process of it, because Sony had come out and said about a week or so before launch that no stores would be selling PlayStation 5s in any sort of store unless you had already pre-ordered it and you were just coming to pick up your pre-ordered copy of it or unit. And it was there was also talk of possibly like scheduling times for people to come between COVID and the worries of, bad actors out there, depending on, the area and the situation. I know myself being in not the greatest of areas sometimes. There was talk of me possibly getting it on launch night, and that was quickly shot down given the fact I didn't want to be mugged. So, yeah, we got it home, and I immediately I had messaged you about this, and I was frustrated at first, given the transition between the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 consoles. That was purely because I was an absolute idiot and signed into the wrong account.
Yeah.
So I had to since walk that back. But the transition between the two consoles is great. I did have to hook up my PlayStation 4 upstairs to a different TV and have the PS5 downstairs to enact the data transfer, but you can do that over your own network. So my original plan was to throw everything on external storage, carry it to the console, and then throw it on the console. But I didn't have to do that. I literally just set the console up to do it, and it kind of did its thing. It took me about 15 minutes total, and it was done. And then from there, I was able to start playing games. Everything looks really nice. The home screen is kind of different from the PlayStation 4, so it's a little bit weird getting used to that. But I did play a little bit. I haven't gotten like hyper deep into a lot of different games, but I tried the backwards compatibility first. And I jumped in Horizon. Horizon, it gives you the PlayStation 4 Pro visual enhancements whenever you play it on the PS5. So you can choose between resolution and frame rate. And it looks better than it did on the PS4 for sure. And I noticed it just feels a bit better on the updated graphics and everything.
It did look nice on the PS5.
Yes.
That was the only one that you showed me in the very short time I was at your house. But I will say, guys out there, if you're gonna play Horizon, get it on PC. It's amazing on PC. Just say,
yeah, I mean,
if you have the
course,
potential to do it on PC, do it on PC. It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, the
I
PS.
do like that they, like how you said, I know the Xbox does it too. I do like that they allow you to choose whether you want frame rate or fidelity, because that gives you a lot of options when it comes to, like, competitive games. You're always going to pick frame rate, where, a story driven game probably are going to pick fidelity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course it is going to look better on PC than it does on an actual console. But I mean, it still is an improvement.
Yeah.
I did want to get into God of War as well. I just hadn't got around to doing that because from what I understand, they actually added some haptic feedback stuff with God of War. So not only do they give it the updated graphics, but actually add some of that haptic feedback in the DualSense controller. And the DualSense controller, I got to try that out a little bit because bundled into the console is the game/tech demo/ Sony commercial, Astro's Playroom.
Right.
It is a shameless advertisement. Oh my god! It's a fun little thing, so you can kind of feel what the controller is going to do. Because of course, at a launch window, there's not really a whole crazy big lot of games out there, and we only picked up Spider-Man Miles Morales, and the only reason I haven't played that is because I have not finished Spider-Man, and it's a sequel to that, so. Yeah. I am staying away from that until I eventually get around to
be wary
finishing
of that
Spider-Man.
One. I do want to give a quick shout out to somebody who's been a friend of our channel, and that would be G Million. I did a show of his a while back, and he actually has a great video. He had first 24 hours with PS5. He tried to play Miles Morales, and he actually edited together a little montage of all the time the game crashed on him. So just be careful with that.
And that is something that is going on right now. We have not experienced it ourselves.
I was wondering. I was going to ask, honestly.
Sony has acknowledged the PlayStation 5 has there's a lockout issue or a lockdown issue, I should say, regarding the sleep mode It's been reported that if you are in the middle of playing a PS5 game, and if the game just doesn't like where you put it into sleep mode, it will actually crash out your whole console. Sometimes to the point that you have to actually rebuild the database in it or even do a system reset.
That's not fun.
So, yeah, I mean, not off to the greatest of starts, but I mean, new tech, that's just the way it is sometimes.
You know my feel. I don't want to get in the weeds on that. You know my feelings on these systems being a little bit early. I think they needed to be in the womb a little bit longer. In my personal opinion.
But
I wanted to ask you, Neil, what you did play with the controller, because I've read a lot about it. In your opinion, is it tchotchke bullshit that they put in there, or is it actually appreciated?
So it depends. So there's a lot of features, and of course, Astro's Playroom is literally just to show off all the things.
Okay.
There's like the microphone in there. They want you to blow in it to do stuff. I don't know as if that's necessarily going to be implemented in like AAA titles or anything like that. The touchpad is still the touchpad. It feels a little bit better on the thumb. They kind of made it a little more slick when you rub across. The haptic feedback, it feels. It was described. I forget where it was described. I think it was on MinMax. I can't remember. As like just really good rumble. And like, yeah, I'll give it that. Like I've heard from other outlets saying, "Oh, well, when you're running through the sand, it feels like sand is hitting your hands or something like that." No, and no, I don't really. That's
kind of what
a
I was
bit.
curious
Yeah,
about.
that's a bit ridiculous. I mean, the pattern of the rumble feels like something that you might experience in your feet, but I'm not closing my eyes and imagining I'm running down a beach.
See, that's why I asked, because I wanted like an actual, because that's what I've read, stuff like you're saying, and in my mind I'm like, shut the fuck up, that just sounds ridiculous.
I'll tell you, the biggest thing though that really delivers that I was kind of taken back by was the adaptive triggers. So in Astro's Playroom, to show it off, they put the little robot character that you are in like a little springy mech suit, and you have to hold down the trigger to build up tension. So if you just lightly, tap on the trigger, there's a little bit of resistance on it, but you'll feel a little bit different, but you'll just sproing off a little bit. But if you really like push down on it, that resistance does tighten, but it does not tighten in such a way. When we first heard about this, there was the worry of, oh, well, it's going to make it so you just can't push the triggers and then lock up completely and you pull the trigger and you're going to break it. Like, no, it still has give, but it's less give.
So is it kind of like how they did with the Elite controllers?
No, the Elite controllers, it's not like, because with the Elite controller, you have like a setting that will set basically where your trigger registers with the little slider on the back.
Out and stuff.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's, from what it looked like from a teardown that I saw, is like a corkscrew sort of thing. So when you push on it, it basically actuates on that. What I can compare it to is like just trying to compress the feeling of compressing a spring. Like, if you've ever back in the day, I know I was a weird kid in high school and would break apart my clicky pens and like reassemble them or something.
Yeah.
That if you get that spring in your hands and you squish it between your fingers, you start feeling that resistance. It still has the give. You're still going to do it. It's not going to completely lock the trigger up. But you definitely feel like you're pushing harder than what you would expect to need to do in something. And I feel like that's going to have some interesting play in the future if developers decide to use it. I know there was talk of, in Deathloop, your gun can jam, so then your trigger would lock up. I don't know how that's necessarily going to play out. it might end up being something to where like you're going to have the resistance on the trigger, but like you will be able to still click it in. It just won't do anything until you like unjam it. And from what I understand too, like in Miles Morales and the Spider-Man remaster, that it feels a little bit different in the triggers as well. But that is the big thing for me that I saw. Other than that, like I said, the visuals are good. The issues that I had right out of the gate were my own stupidity, because I was thinking about it, and this is the first console that I've had to where I upgrade and can transfer my stuff over, because it's been pure like full generational jumps where, you know, you can't really carry your stuff over. Like the 360 into the Xbox One, at first it didn't have backwards compatibility, so there was no way to transfer your stuff. Eventually, you know, they did it via cloud. So I didn't know really how to come at that, and I was able to do that. And fun fact too, Sony is actually giving your PS4 some longevity, because an update rolled out for the PS4 to where you can stream your PS5 to your PS4 and use it like a set-top box, basically, like its own little streaming device. So
That's pretty cool. Is that like your favorite new feature of it?
I have not used it just because the two TVs we have the 4K downstairs. I don't think that a PS5 would look good at all on the TV that we have upstairs. It's a 1080 with only a 30 hertz refresh.
Okay.
So I would have lots and lots of problems.
Yeah, chug.
Especially given the internet issues that I've been having lately. So, yeah. So, I mean, overall, like, I'm thinking, like, I am interested to see what they're going to be doing moving forward with this generation. I'm pleased. I'm pleased with my choice between that and the Series X. I think it's gonna be good in the long run. I'm just hoping that the issue that they have with the system, like kind of crashing out in rest mode, is software and not hardware based, because then we will have an Xbox 360 Red Ring situation.
Right.
So
you'll have to, when you get more time with it, tell me too, because I play Call of Duty with a few guys that are like hardcore gamers that have like, actually one of them has the PS5 and one bought the Xbox Series X, and they both these guys I'm talking about have PCs as well that they play on. And I was talking to them, and they said they were surprised, which I was surprised that they said this. They claimed that I asked them, I was like, so how much better does it look, like 4K? Because they're running 1080p on their PCs, as 90% of PC gamers are.
yeah.
And it surprised me to hear them say that. They said it looks great, don't get me wrong, but they said that they feel that their games do actually still, they prefer how it looks on the PC as opposed to the Xbox and the PS5, even though they're 4K. So you'll have to tell me your opinion on that.
I'm thinking from on a surface level, from what I've played, just like I said, I only played Astro's Playroom. I think they're going more so in that regard for a resolution more so than frame rate. And I think in the PC realm, frame rate trumps resolution. Because I know, like I had read an article earlier, and it's true for me now too, is this generation has really positioned itself to be more so one of frame rates, not necessarily resolution, because we've had, 4K via like checkerboarding and whatnot with the previous like high end, in the previous generation, the high end models of the consoles. So like we had 4K there already, and a fair amount of people have 4K TVs too. So like they, at this point, kind of know what to expect with that. And I think the frame rate is the big generational thing. I think the only gripe that I'm going to say that I have with the PlayStation 5 is the weird nebulous sort of idea of the premium upgrades for games. Perfect example, one that kind of irked me a little bit. I bought Devil May Cry 5 for the PS4 whenever it came out a year or so ago, and they just had the Devil May Cry 5 special edition come out. So I was hoping that they would have an upgrade path to where I give them 10, 15 bucks, something like that. And I just upgrade my PS4 version to the PS5 special edition version. Capcom has not made that an accessible option, or at least that I've been able to find. I searched the PlayStation Store earlier today, actually, for it. So, I mean, we're kind of in that weird spot of like, well, your last generation stuff can be upgraded, but some people are doing it for free. Some people are not doing it for free. Some people just straight aren't doing it and are making you buy a new game. But that can't necessarily be held against Sony. That's more so against the publishers. I just wish that they would, I guess, phrase that a bit better. Or at least Sony would come out and be like, hey, this game is a thing, and, you can get an upgraded version of this last gen game, but hey, you're going to have to buy the new version of the game. And I'm not spending another $40 on the next gen version of Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah. So, I mean, outside of that, I mean, I'm pleased with it. It is a big old chonk for sure that takes up a lot of space. But yeah, I mean, that's right. I don't know if you guys have any other questions about it or anything.
I do not. If Philbilly does, he's welcome to ask. Otherwise, we should move on.
I think I pretty much asked everything I was curious about.
Alrighty.
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
That brings us to odds and ends. Yes, we're still doing it, even though we can't seem to shut up tonight. This is the part of the show where we collect little news stories that aren't really deserving of a full talking point, but we just break them down for you, say a couple of things about it. So, Neil, why don't you start us off?
Google is giving away the Stadia Premier package for free for all YouTube Premium users. And I know that this works because I got mine in the mail the other day.
Wow.
So I got a free Chromecast from Google.
So what do you have to do to not get that for free? Because I know if you got a certain type of internet, you got it for free. Now if you got YouTube, you got it for free.
Right.
I think you have to. I think you have to like go and physically like try to take over Google or something like that.
Yeah, like
you have to work.
Just kind of like
you have to work for Epic.
Next, it's gonna like you buy a bag of Doritos and get Stadia for free.
Right.
It's got the controller in the package.
And to also state, in case anybody is wondering, yes, I got Google Stadia for free. No, I haven't tried to use it. Do I plan on trying to use it? Maybe if I'm that bored. But honestly, I just need to get around it because you have to have the YouTube Premium and you have to sign up for a free your first month is free of Stadia, and then it's $10 a month afterwards. So I signed up for the 10-month or the $10 monthly thing, but I just need to cancel it, and so I just don't get charged.
That's how they get you.
That's
If that is their play to make money, though, is they're so desperate they just hope that everybody signs up for Stadia and just forgets. Like, that's how they make money.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first company that does.
I mean,
it.
that's true.
You know how many people have Netflix that haven't watched that shit in years.
All right, so you want to do another one since you've got more than me?
Sure. So 343 is expected to give us a high-level update on Halo Infinite soon.
Yes, and not at the Game Awards.
Yeah, not at the Game Awards. So
I don't know why they were so specific that they're not going to do it there, but they really wanted to like cut the legs off that rumor. Yeah,
they probably were people were expecting whatever. I mean, I my excitement has been much tempered since I saw the trailer that they showed, when they first showed everything off and everyone hated everything. Side note, actually, I didn't write this down on my odds and ends, but the Craig meme?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's official on Microsoft employee shirts now. Craig is officially a part of Microsoft and 343.
That's funny.
They're
How did
wearing
I
him
not
like
know
a badge
about
of honor.
this?
You never seen the Craig meme?
I don't think
we'll
so.
we'll show him off, Mike. We don't
Yeah.
have time to get into
Yeah,
the Craig meme. We just don't. I think anybody waiting for Halo Infinite, you guys need to temper your expectations, because after the dismal showing and the fact that they've gone through 2 creative directors in that amount of time since then, you're with no actual release date. I think everybody just needs to stop thinking about Halo Infinite for a while.
Well, they have also addressed the one creative director leaving. They did say that was something in the works for multiple months. So,
Right,
I mean, it wasn't like difference of,
But they're not going to come out and say, we had no idea, he's ruined us.
I mean, that's fair.
That's not going to be the statement. He's left us and we have no idea how to finish this game. That's not going to be what they say. All right, so I'm going to do one. This is a quick one. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, fictional Viking game where they go to Europe and it's about their occupation in Europe. So the settlement that you create there is supposedly kind of mid-Europe. It's called Ravensthorpe. Ubisoft had no idea there is actually a city in the middle of Europe called Ravensthorpe.
Yeah, I heard about this.
This is
That
really
seems
funny.
like a slight oversight on something they probably should have gave a Google.
Right. Right? And they're like, their maps are like, our maps are amazing. They're always like that. They're like, our maps are always like cutting edge maps of the historical time. And you'd be like, so did you only look at a map from then? Because there's a city called that. How'd you guys miss that? I thought that was funny. Your turn, Neil.
Well, I'm going to hold off on one of mine because Phil actually mentioned about that one that we were talking about between segment. If you want to go into that one, that was one of the ones I had on my list, actually.
Yeah, it's just a short one. I had read that. I believe it said both the Series X, where I read, and the PS5. They're actually not anticipating catching up on the amount of consoles built versus demand until spring of 2021. So if you didn't get your pre-orders and you're waiting on that console hoping to, jump onto the new generation, you may have a little bit of wait ahead of you.
Yeah.
Unless you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. That's real rough. All right, do you want to do another one there, Neil, or you want me to?
All right. So some light has been shed on the future of Bethesda games by Xbox Chief Financial Officer Tim Stewart.
Pissed I didn't get my terrible talk done before this announcement. It's scrapped now. Go ahead.
He basically said straight up, we have no intention on pulling all Bethesda content out of Sony or Nintendo or otherwise.
There's no reason to. There's
basically,
no reason to.
Basically confirming that, they might have some exclusivity or the best version of, the game, exclusive DLC or whatever will be on Xbox. But outside of that, they might pull things here and there. They're maybe a real big one. But that could also mean that Elder Scrolls might not be in such a bad place, or Avowed, that is, might not be in such a bad spot compared to Elder Scrolls.
I would still be upset if I was.
Yeah, for sure, but not as bad as it.
Just to say, I'm so upset because I had finally worded out and recorded my terrible talk on exclusivity, and I really honed in on why Bethesda shouldn't why Xbox shouldn't make Bethesda go exclusive, and then they announced this, and I'm like, well, all that fucking audio is useless.
Do you guys think that that's how they're going to use Obsidian though? Do you think like they'll let Obsidian still be the same as Bethesda, but they'll keep Obsidian as a exclusive?
I don't know. I'm really, really, really curious to see what happens to Obsidian in the next couple of years. I'm not
I
gonna
mean
lie.
that might be a solution, right? I mean,
I I don't want them to stay the same. I mean, I don't
well, I
know.
don't want them to have to change just because the
Right.
bigger, older brother
Showed
got
up. Yeah.
bought, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're still good at what they do.
I mean,
Yeah,
would I be excited about an Obsidian making the next Elder Scrolls? Hell yeah. Do I want the next Elder Scrolls in place of Avowed? No. So like it's kind of a tough
but
a tough trade-off.
what if because Obsidian has that history with the Fallout franchise, what
I
if
don't
they
want this.
pass Fallout
I know what
off
you're talking
to
about.
Obsidian?
I don't want that because if they pass Fallout off to Obsidian, then we don't get a sequel to Outer Worlds, and Outer Worlds was my game of the year last year. Like
I mean, that's true.
I don't want that. That's the problem. Is Obsidian, and this is basically why Phil's bringing it up. Is Obsidian is a better Bethesda. Like that's what they're doing, and now you have Bethesda there. You got one of two choices. You let them keep making the exact same game that Bethesda is better, which how do you let them do that? Or you have them start working on Bethesda properties because they do it better. And I don't want that either. Like, it's just, I don't know. I'm very fearful for Avowed and Outer Worlds. I'm very fearful for them.
Yeah.
All right, going to my next one. This is one that's going to make everybody collectively groan. But Zynga, you know Zynga.
Oh, yeah.
Mobile Zynga. They have just opened up a new studio that's going to be working exclusively on a premier mobile Star Wars game. So that'll be fun. I can't wait to play Star Wars Poker.
Yeah.
Collective groan.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
there are some franchises, some games that do not belong on phones. I don't think KOTOR even belonged on a phone, but then they ported it over for whatever reason.
Right.
I think that was even ridiculous. Back when they tried to put BioShock on the phones, on iPhones, like that was just weird.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. That's just like literal cash grab for no other reason than just
The
money.
only thing I want on phones are collectible card games. I think they're great on phones. It's the only thing that works on a phone, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to do another one there, Neil?
Yeah, and it's going to be my last one. So I had shared this with you earlier in the week. There was a hostage situation apparently at Ubisoft Montreal, and I mean I saw that. It was shared with me. I was like, oh my goodness, what happened? I shared it with you. We got no other information out of it. Turns out they basically got fucking swatted.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's swatting Ubisoft and why.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
This is a complete hoax. I followed it the whole day. I was like, oh no, like Ubisoft Montreal, that's where they make For Honor. Like I was like I actually used to watch Warriors Den like every week. Like in a weird way, I'm like, I know those people. Like
I love that your first thought was like, oh no, For Honor, not like
no, For Honor people
situation with human lives at
Fuck
stake. Like,
you.
crap,
That's
I'm
what
not
I
gonna
was
get
saying.
the game.
Was For Honor
think that's
people.
what he meant.
I was saying the For Honor people on Warriors Den. You motherfucker.
No, I know what you mean.
I have looked bad enough in the last 4 weeks without you helping along.
Neil's just trying to dump on.
Yeah, seriously. He's trying to usurp me. Like, he wants the podcast to himself. Okay, so my last one is They have set a Night City episode, a Night City Wire for Cyberpunk on the day that it was supposed to be released. I kind of feel like that's a little bit bad taste. I don't know, just me. I'm like, guys.
Yeah, that's kind of dick.
That's like salt in the wound, man. Come on. Like,
that's kind of really dick.
I'm actually kind of upset that they're doing another episode because it makes me feel that they're even more shadier, like that they kind of had this delay planned longer than that, because to set these episodes up, they have them in the works for a long time. I don't think this was a thing where they were like, I don't think this was a thing they randomly put together because they weren't releasing it on the 19th. I feel like it was planned. I don't know. It felt a little shady to me. Plus, salt in the wound. Like, the same day, guys. The same day. We don't get to play it, but we get to hear about Keanu Reeves' character. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
Like, what do they have left to show us, though? I mean, they've shown everything there is to show without just, like...
It said that it's going to focus on Keanu Reeves' character. That's what it's going to focus on.
Wait, that's literally it? Oh, my God.
I mean, there might be more announced now, but when I first saw the article... they had said that, like, the Night City Wire will center around Johnny Silverhand and his origins and stuff like that. So, like, I'm like, are they just, like, doing an episode with Keanu Reeves because they're like, everybody's mad at us, let's get Keanu out? Like everybody likes Keanu, like...
I think that they just, like, collectively just shit in their hand and are trying to wipe it off with anything that they can find, because at this point, like you said, like, this game was supposed to have been out, everybody was hyped for it. They didn't have enough of these things planned out because they, announced these Night City Wires far out enough. So, like, crap, we got to put another episode out because reasons, I guess. And they're just like are just trying to do whatever they can to just make it look like, oh yeah, this is just part of the plan. Here's more content about stuff and things.
Right.
And
I feel like CD Projekt Red, you need to shut the fuck up until your game is out at this point.
The last one that they did was like, whatever. Like when they're going on about like the music and everything like that. Like, I get it. You're trying to flesh things out. It's not that I don't care about the music. I love music in games, but we come to these things for information about the game as a whole. And you've billed this as such an event that it warrants that. Again, not like shitting on the work that the sound design team does, but I don't know if that necessarily is what they want to be relaying for the future of the game.
Right. All right.
I don't know. I'm not even convinced that game's coming out this year.
Yeah, neither am I.
Well, Kev got us with the fake one. That, I mean, I did a double take. I had to Google it real quick. Because we were in Sam's Club and I actually yelled "What the fuck" in the middle of Sam's Club. Whenever it happened,
I was the minute I saw that, I was like, no fucking way. I would have heard about it. All right. So that's it for odds and ends. Then I think we're all wrapped up on odds and ends.
I do believe.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show, and that means the main event, the moment you've all been waiting for, the Horrible Arena. What is the Horrible Arena if you have never watched or listened? Well, first of all, you should watch or listen a little bit more. Seriously, we're kind of likable.
For the most part.
For the people who haven't, what it is both of the co-hosts are going to pitch to you a video game based on pre-existing criteria decided the week prior. We will pitch you the developer, the title of the game, and we will pitch you the game. Then you will get to go to the places and decide which game you would spend your hard-earned money on if you had to pick between the two. Now, last week, I picked Mass Effect game, like your Mass Effect game. They're making another Mass Effect entry. What's it going to be? What does Neil want it to be? So Neil has... The Quantum Coin came up you get to go first. Now, as far as Philbilly, he is going to listen to the pitches, and he is going to cast the first vote right here live. So, Neil, take it away.
All right. So my game is going to be called Project Mass Effect Sol, SOL, like our solar system in the game. The developer, of course, is going to be BioWare. And we all know the story of Commander Shepard and their struggle against the Reapers. Those of us who played the games, at least. But not much has really been explored within the lore in the game outside of like what actually happens in it. So like the early history of the Mass Effect games is still kind of like a nebulous thing to some degree. So the story would begin in 2148, just as humanity discovers the Prothean outpost on Mars that leads humanity to discover the mass relay system. The very first segment of the game would be playing through that discovery as the character that you created, much like a Shepherd. Obviously, it would not be Shepherd themselves, but it would be like a Shepherd-esque character. There would then be a time jump to the first adventure out into the other systems that hurdles us as a new race into the intergalactic political space. Unfortunately, humanity just kind of assumed that they could freely use the mass relay systems because they found them, which led to a lot of other people thinking that, or a lot of other alien races thinking that we're dicks, which kind of follows from what happens in the games, honestly. That the space was basically ours to conquest. And also, unfortunately for humanity, they decided to settle on a planet that was occupied by Turians, leading to a war for control of the planet breaking out between the humans and the Turians, which is actually referred to in either the second or third Mass Effect game, if I'm remembering correctly. The game would take place during this war. You would play as your Shepard-esque character who would be a commander fighting in an army, fighting the war for the sake of humanity. In traditional fashion, you'd be tasked with making calls that can decide the course of battle and how your story plays out. However, given there is a set end to what kind of has to happen, i.e. the peace treaty between humans and Taurians eventually, the choices that you make within the game do not affect the outcome, but more so how history is going to remember your character as a whole. Were you a diplomatic sort of character who went in and tried to talk their way through things and fight as little as possible? Or were you a crazy warlord who just wanted to kill all Taurians in their path? So that is going to be my game. Mass Effect Sol.
Wow. That is really good, Neil. Really good.
Thanks.
I'm not pitching the same thing. Not even
Oh
close.
my God.
So we're good. I think I really like how deeply you rooted it in the backstory. And I got to say, I almost pitched the same thing because prequel was like, it's really the only logical place to go with the storyline.
Right.
With the way they ended on 3. So, but I'm going to do something different. So we'll see how it works out. All right. So, my project is Project Corsair. Okay? Obviously, BioWare is going to do it. I was thinking about changing it up and having a different company do it, but let's face it, it's got to be BioWare, no matter how bad their reputation has gotten over the years. But what's my game? Well, first of all, with Mass Effect, the franchise is actually in a tough spot. Because when you really look at it, you have only a couple of places to jump on from. Because of the way Mass Effect 3 ends, things kind of like get resolved in a very final sort of way. It's very hard to do a full entry after that. And then you have Andromeda, which I definitely thought about pitching a sequel to that, but no one would play that because of the name attached to it. So that's kind of a bummer. What is the best thing about Mass Effect, though? The best thing about Mass Effect is the fact that it uses your previous data from previous games. Like, that's the coolest thing, is that your story by the end is completely your story. So I was trying to think about how to incorporate all of this into a major game. And I'm sorry I just burped, but I did. And get all of that kind of feel while still having it work in the storyline and be different. So what Corsair is going to be is, first of all, you get a full character creation suite. I'm not just talking about Shepard. You get to play any of the races that have been in previous Mass Effects. You get to make the character from the ground up, male or female, pick the voice, the whole 9 yards. What is this character going to be doing? Well, this character is going to be put into a weird situation where they end up becoming an outlaw. This character will start at the beginning of the first game. So the first game, this game will start at the beginning of the first game of Mass Effect, like alongside of it. Now you're probably wondering, well, what's your previous data have to do with that? And I'm not sure how they would transfer this data. I am assuming they would do it directly from the collection. But what I would want to have happen is your previous playthrough of the trilogy dictates how the world moves as you play this game. This game will be you end up getting a ship, kind of like Mass Effect, but you are a freelance pirate/mercenary. And how you move through the world is completely up to you. How you collect stuff is completely up to you. The jobs you do is completely up to you. But the jobs that become open, the conflicts that become open, depend on how your character moved through the original trilogy. So almost like that data spawns your experience in this game, making your experience in this game still unique to everybody else. When the total game ends, the first game would cover everything that happens in the trilogy for your new character. And then, should there be a sequel, you would pick up where you left off with this character, but it would be farther than the Shepard storyline, so you would also have that new opening for a new storyline, which Mass Effect sorely needs some new jumping off point. So you'd still get that feel of playing your old character, of playing with your old character's data. You'd get a completely brand new character, and you'd get to move through the storyline, a completely new storyline based on that. So yeah, that's my project, Project Corsair. And everybody out there, you guys have two choices. You've got Project Corsair, you got Project Soul. What are you guys going to spend your hard-earned money on? But before that decision, we have a very weird situation, because I think if Philbilly was not on this show, he probably wouldn't vote because he does not know crap about Mass Effect. But you're on the show, Philbilly. So given what you've heard, which one would you want to pay money for?
Yeah, so again, to hammer home, my knowledge on Mass Effect is extremely limited. Not because I hate the game, I just never got into it, don't know much about it. So with that preface, my vote actually, I think, would go to Zach's game because I'm a sucker for the outlaw story. Like a lot of times, both games sound cool. How your actions, can change the outcome and how people view you as in Neil's case, a leader, or in Zach's case, a pirate or outlaw. But really, the only reason that Zach gets my vote this week is the character customization sounds good, and I've always been an outlaw sucker. Even superheroes, I like the anti-hero.
Well, that's completely fair. I thank you for your vote. I gotta say, I do love how we pitched kind of anti each other games somehow in this one very specific area.
Yeah.
So everybody out there, it hasn't been decided yet. Philbilly's got me up by 1, but what do you guys want to play? Do you want to play Project Corsair or Project Soul? You can vote in all the places we're going to pick, but first, I'm going to make Neil feel very uncomfortable because I'm going to, yet again, remember to make him pick the criteria for next week on air.
Or do I get to pick?
Well,
oh, that's right. Philbilly gets to pick. I totally forgot the guests get to pick. Okay. All right.
Well, joke would have been on you anyways because I have one ready to go.
Well, keep it, and we'll use it next week. Whenever the
Unless
guest is
you
on.
need to use it now, Neil. I do have one.
Oh no, I can save mine forever because Lord knows after I burn this one, it'll take me a month and a half to figure one out.
Just do me a favor, Philbilly. You got to vote if you pick one, because Logan didn't vote, the little bastard, on the one that he picked. Calling you out, Knights. What the hell, dude? So you gotta vote if you pick it.
I
And Neil,
promise to vote.
save yours, and we'll use it next week.
So what I want you guys to pitch, it's very open, but I just want to see what your guys' stance is on. So like, I don't even know what to call it. I guess it's like my if it was me pitching, it would be like my closet nerd game. And I just want to hear. So like, pick a franchise that you guys are really into, and it doesn't have to be for this. Like, okay, for just an example to help you out. So I really like Star Wars, okay? But I really do not like Jedis or anything that's portrayed in most of the main films. I like the Mandalorians. I like the stories of smugglers and pirates in the world. I like everything else that's not going on. So pick any franchise you want. It could be anime, it could be sci-fi, whatever, and just pick the game or just pitch the game you want. I don't care what it is. It's very open. It could be a top-down RPG, like a CRPG. It could be a looter shooter. It doesn't matter. Just pick your nerd out game, like something that you've always kind of been
Like,
like,
come
man,
at
I
a
really
franchise
want
in a
that to
different
be a
light.
game.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I that's interesting. I like that. So kind of come at a franchise in a way that you would come at a franchise instead of the creator of the franchise.
Correct. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I've always wanted, I would play an open world Star Wars game if I could build my character and fuck the Jedi and the Sith. I just want to do what I would do if I was in that world.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I can do that. I like the open-endedness of it.
This is gonna be a scratcher. I don't know.
But it's wide open, Neil. If there's some anime you
Yeah,
like, go
no,
for it. Whatever. It
it's
don't matter.
it's not necessarily that. It's going to be difficult to pitch something that can be compared against something else. Because they're going to be so wild.
That's fine. We haven't had a super different one in a while anyway. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think one time we did just pitch a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was a long
though.
time ago. So I'm okay with just let's just pitch something and see what comes out. I mean, it's got to be an existing franchise at least.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all right. Well, in that case, if you guys are good, we'll move to the plugs.
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show, guys, and the shameless self-promotion that it brings. Philbilly, thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. Do you have anything you would like to plug?
Just coming up would be we did our live stream of our Godfall 330 intro, I guess. So look forward to a actual 30-minute reoccurring series of that game, Godfall 330. Also, if you guys are still here and you are not subscribed and you listen to three idiots who like doing this for this long, just hit that button. Come on.
Amen to that. Neil, anything you want to pitch, plug?
Well, I mean, we're doing Halo Infinite Road. And I want to say this coming episode is going to be a thing.
It's gonna be funny.
As I alluded,
it's still funny.
Basically, I'm not gonna to ruin it all, but it's gonna set the table very nicely. As I alluded to earlier, I've been having internet problems for the past few days, and it shows. So that's that, and we are gonna be getting some more of those out here, pumped out. We were supposed to be recording a whole swath of them, but this one was just a treat. A treat.
What sucks
and
is we're gonna have to. We were 38 minutes into that episode, into that level, that we're gonna have to go back through just to get to the point to start the episode. That episode is actually just called Lag, all caps.
Yeah, honestly, I feel bad too because I always try to bring the best that I possibly can to all of the stuff here, and I failed there.
Yeah, it was still funny. It
Oh,
made for
yeah.
so
I mean,
much funny
hey,
moments. There's so many times I've got you on camera just running into a wall.
I eventually just had to use the game against itself, but yeah. So that's going to be a thing. So go ahead and watch that and get ready for that trash fire.
Halo Infinite Road is a great show. I'm very much looking forward to Godfall 330. I love these kinds of shows where we just get to just have fun with it. So there's that. I do have a special plug. It has already set up as a premiere. Philbilly.
Oh yeah.
Very final episode of On the Hunt comes out Tuesday at 1 p.m. I know Philbilly's got to work. I'm going to do everything in my power to be on to chat with anybody who gets on for the actual premiere in the live chat. Yeah, it's a 39 episode series me and Philbilly did. It was just true undertaking I don't even think Borderlands had like that kind of work that we put into that one.
No, but it was Zach did a great job of editing it. He showed me a sneak peek, so it'll be cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I edited together a special music video to open it, so please check that out. I love to plug it. That show was just a real crazy journey for me and Philbilly. So
it's crazy to think that's the second one we're finishing. It's kind of nuts to think about.
Yeah, it's weird. So please check that out, guys. And as usual, you can check out everything we have to offer on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on Twitter at Old Man Gaming 9. You can join our Discord. The link will be in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows from there. So please, as long as you guys keep watching and you keep listening, we will keep making it. Share, like, and if you live in Ireland, please contact us. We want to hear from you. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Later, old man fam.
Antidotes. I'm never gonna
Antidotes?
Right. Yeah, that.
Lord knows you're poisoning me with words, so.
And got that solid state drive. Okay, so
Wait, you said it right, Zach.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was
that was
confused.
right.
Yeah,
Oh, it's standard. I say standard.
Standard state drive.
You
Yeah,
don't have to say it wrong. It was fine. You got
Yeah,
it.
no, you have to go back now to he's going to be conflicted. His head's going to be hurting because now he doesn't know what's right.
Apologizing for the right word.
Sorry,
right. Now every time I say it, I'm going to think it's the wrong word and say standard even more.
Just keep up solid. You're good.
I'm just going to keep saying SSD. I think that's the smart play.
That is definitely the safest play.
Yes.